If there is one fear that quietly grows as we age, it's the fear of losing our memory, forgetting names, misplacing words, or worse, losing our independence. But what if many of these changes are not an inevitable part of aging? What if they are, at least in part, a reflection of what we put on our plate? Today, we're going to explore the best foods shown by science to help protect memory after age 60, and just as importantly, the foods that quietly accelerate cognitive decline. Let's begin with an important truth: the brain is not a passive organ. It is metabolically active, highly sensitive to inflammation, oxidative stress, blood flow, and nutrient availability. And all of these are profoundly influenced by diet. The real enemy of memory loss: when people think about memory loss, they often blame age alone. But research tells a different story. The strongest dietary drivers of cognitive decline are chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, impaired blood flow to the brain, insulin resistance, and the accumulation of toxic proteins like beta amyloid. These processes are not random. They are heavily influenced by what we eat every single day. The good news: many of the most powerful protective foods are simple, affordable, and accessible. 1. Leafy greens, the brain's daily multivitamin. If there were one food group consistently associated with slower cognitive decline, it would be leafy green vegetables. Spinach, kale, collards, arugula, and Swiss chard are rich in folate, vitamin K, lutein, beta carotene. In one large observational study, adults who consumed just one serving of leafy greens per day had the cognitive performance of people 11 years younger than those who rarely ate them. Why does this matter? Because folate helps regulate homocysteine, a compound linked to brain shrinkage. Vitamin K supports neuronal signaling. Lutein accumulates directly in brain tissue, where it acts as an antioxidant shield. Think of leafy greens not as a side dish, but as daily brain insurance. 2. Berries, nature's anti-aging pills. Berries, especially blueberries, strawberries, and blackberries, contain a unique class of compounds called anthocyanins. These pigments don't just give berries their color. They cross the blood-brain barrier, reduce oxidative damage, improve communication between brain cells. In long-term studies, higher berry intake is associated with delayed memory decline by up to 2.5 years. What's especially fascinating is that berries don't just protect memory, they may enhance it. Animal studies show improved learning and spatial awareness within weeks of increased berry consumption. A small handful a day may do more for your brain than many supplements. 3. Beans and lentils. Fuel for focus. Beans are one of the most underrated brain foods on the planet. They provide steady glucose for the brain, soluble fiber to improve insulin sensitivity, polyphenols that reduce inflammation. The brain runs primarily on glucose, but it needs a slow, steady supply, not blood sugar spikes. Beans deliver exactly that. Poor blood sugar control has been strongly linked to faster cognitive decline, even in people without diabetes. Beans help stabilize that metabolic environment, protecting neurons from glucose toxicity. If memory loss is like a flickering light bulb, beans help stabilize the electrical system. 4. Nuts and seeds. Structural support for the brain. Your brain is nearly 60% fat by dry weight, and the quality of those fats matters. Walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds provide alpha-linolenic acid, a plant omega-3 vitamin E, magnesium, and zinc. Vitamin E, in particular, has been associated with slower progression of cognitive decline, likely due to its antioxidant effects on neuronal membranes. Walnuts deserve special mention. Their polyphenol profile closely resembles that of berries, and observational studies consistently link walnut consumption with better cognitive scores in older adults. Just a small daily portion can have measurable effects over time. 5. Whole grains. Feeding the brain's blood supply. Memory loss is often a vascular problem before it becomes a neurological one. Whole grains such as oats, barley, brown rice, and whole wheat improve endothelial function, cerebral blood flow, nitric oxide availability. Better blood flow means better oxygen and nutrient delivery to the brain. Refined grains do the opposite, raising blood sugar, promoting inflammation, and damaging blood vessels. The difference between white bread and whole grains isn't subtle, it's structural. When blood flow suffers, memory follows. 6. Cruciferous vegetables, detoxifying the brain. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage activate the body's internal detox systems. They stimulate enzymes that help neutralize environmental toxins, heavy metals, oxidative byproducts. These compounds would otherwise accumulate in brain tissue and accelerate neurodegeneration. Cruciferous vegetables also reduce inflammation at the genetic level, turning down the expression of inflammatory pathways associated with Alzheimer's disease. Think of them as a cleanup crew for your nervous system. 7. Spices that protect memory. Certain spices function almost like medicine. Turmeric, when consumed with black pepper, has been shown to reduce neuroinflammation, improve working memory, decrease amyloid plaque accumulation in experimental models. Cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity, indirectly protecting the brain from glucose-related damage. Even small amounts used daily can have cumulative benefits. The foods that steal memory. Just as important as what to eat is what to minimize. Diets high in saturated fat, processed meats, refined sugars, fried foods are consistently associated with faster cognitive decline. These foods promote inflammation, impair blood flow, and increase oxidative stress. Exactly the conditions the aging brain cannot afford. Memory loss is not caused by one bad meal. It's caused by patterns repeated over years. The takeaway: preventing memory loss after 60 isn't about magic pills or expensive supplements. It's about daily dietary patterns that either protect your brain or quietly undermine it. The strongest evidence supports a diet centered on leafy greens, berries, beans, and lentils, nuts and seeds, whole grains, cruciferous vegetables. These foods don't just slow decline. They support the brain's ability to repair, adapt, and function well into older age. Aging is inevitable. Cognitive decline is not. Your next meal is not just food. It's information for your brain, and the brain listens. When researchers followed older adults over many years, one simple habit stood out again and again. People who ate just one serving of leafy green vegetables each day, such as spinach or kale, showed dramatically slower memory decline. In fact, their cognitive performance matched individuals who were 10 to 11 years younger. That's not a minor difference. It's the equivalent of turning back the clock on the aging brain by a full decade through diet alone. Leafy greens are packed with brain protective nutrients that work together. Folate helps regulate homocysteine, a compound linked to brain shrinkage and impaired memory. Vitamin K supports healthy communication between brain cells, while lutein and beta-carotene accumulate directly in brain tissue, where they act as powerful antioxidants. These compounds reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, two major drivers of age-related cognitive decline. What makes this finding especially powerful is its simplicity. You don't need large portions or exotic foods. A single daily serving, about 1 cup of raw spinach or half a cup of cooked greens, is enough to make a measurable difference over time. It suggests that memory loss is not an unavoidable consequence of aging, but something we can influence daily, starting with what's on our plate. Blueberries and strawberries stand out among fruits because their protective compounds don't stop at digestion. They actually cross the blood-brain barrier, directly influencing brain cells. These berries are rich in anthocyanins, the natural pigments responsible for their deep red and blue colors. Once inside the brain, these compounds act as powerful antioxidants, neutralizing free radicals that damage neurons and accelerate cognitive decline with age. Oxidative stress is one of the main forces behind memory loss after 60. Over time, it disrupts communication between brain cells and impairs the regions responsible for learning and recall. Berry compounds help counter this by reducing inflammation and improving signaling between neurons. In long-term population studies, people who regularly consumed blueberries and strawberries experienced slower rates of memory decline, by as much as 2.5 years, compared to those who rarely ate them. What's especially remarkable is how little is needed. Even a small handful of berries a few times a week has been associated with measurable brain benefits. Frozen berries work just as well as fresh, making them affordable and accessible year-round. Instead of thinking of berries as a dessert, it may be more accurate to think of them as daily maintenance for the aging brain. Simple, natural, and remarkably effective. The brain depends on glucose as its primary source of fuel, but it functions best when that fuel arrives slowly and steadily. Sudden blood sugar spikes, common after eating refined carbohydrates or sugary foods, can be toxic to brain cells over time. These spikes trigger inflammation, increase oxidative stress, and impair insulin signaling in the brain, all of which are strongly linked to faster memory loss as we age. This is where beans and lentils play a critical protective role. Beans deliver complex carbohydrates wrapped in fiber, which slows digestion and prevents sharp rises in blood sugar. Instead of flooding the bloodstream with glucose, they provide a controlled, sustained release that keeps brain energy levels stable. This steady supply supports concentration, memory formation, and overall cognitive resilience. Research has shown that even mild insulin resistance, short of full diabetes, is associated with reduced brain volume and poorer memory performance. By improving blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity, beans help protect neurons from metabolic stress. They also nourish beneficial gut bacteria, which further reduce inflammation that can reach the brain. In this way, a simple serving of beans doesn't just feed the body, it creates a metabolic environment in which the aging brain can function more clearly, consistently, and for longer. The structure of the brain depends heavily on healthy fats, and the membranes that surround neurons are especially vulnerable to damage as we age. Walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds supply two nutrients that are critical for protecting these delicate structures: vitamin E and plant-based omega-3 fatty acids. Vitamin E acts as a powerful antioxidant, shielding neuron membranes from oxidative damage that can disrupt communication between brain cells and accelerate cognitive decline. Omega-3s, particularly alpha-linolenic acid found in these foods, help maintain membrane flexibility and support efficient signaling between neurons. When brain cell membranes become rigid or damaged, messages slow down, memory suffers, and inflammation increases. Studies consistently show that people who regularly consume nuts, especially walnuts, perform better on cognitive tests and experience slower age-related memory loss. What makes these foods especially valuable is that they work preventively. Rather than trying to repair damage after it occurs, they help preserve brain structure over decades. Just a small daily portion, such as a handful of walnuts or a tablespoon of ground flax or chia, and contribute meaningful protection. Over time, these modest habits accumulate, reinforcing the brain's physical foundation and helping preserve memory, focus, and mental clarity well into older age. The health of your memory is closely tied to the health of your blood vessels. The brain consumes a tremendous amount of oxygen and nutrients, and it relies on strong, flexible arteries to deliver that supply without interruption. When circulation is impaired, the areas responsible for memory and learning are often the first to suffer. Whole, plant-based foods support blood vessel function by improving endothelial health and increasing nitric oxide production, which allows arteries to relax and blood to flow freely. Refined and fried foods work in the opposite direction. They damage the lining of blood vessels, promote inflammation, and reduce the ability of arteries to dilate. Over time, this creates a state of chronic, low-grade oxygen deprivation in brain tissue. The result is not sudden memory loss, but a slow, silent decline, one that often goes unnoticed until cognitive function is significantly impaired. Studies consistently link poor vascular health with faster cognitive aging and higher dementia risk. In contrast, diets rich in whole grains, vegetables, legumes, and fruits are associated with better cerebral blood flow and stronger memory performance. In this sense, memory loss is often a circulation problem before it becomes a neurological one. Feed your blood vessels well, and your brain's memory centers can continue to thrive.